Locals warned her not to take the cemetery shortcut. Now they hear her every night. Subscribe now, if you're brave enough to keep walking. The town of Coldhaven had one rule: never take the path that cuts through the old cemetery after dark. It was more of a warning whispered between neighbors than a law, but everyone respected it. Everyone except one. Lena Harrow, a 23-year-old journalism student, had come to Coldhaven to write her final thesis, The Psychology of Superstition in Rural Communities. She didn't believe in curses, hauntings, or ghost stories passed around to keep people in line. She wanted to expose how fear was manufactured, how stories kept people obedient. But Coldhaven was different. Its streets were quiet after sunset. Too quiet. Even the air felt heavier near the edge of town, where the whispering path began a narrow dirt trail winding through an abandoned cemetery fenced in by rust and ivy. Locals said if you walked it after midnight, you wouldn't hear your own footsteps. You'd hear someone else's matching yours, half a beat behind. Lena laughed the first time someone told her that. Perfect, she said, notebook in hand. A ghost story that tells itself. She interviewed residents all week. An old florist said she'd heard humming near the graves long after closing. A teenage boy swore his phone picked up voices when he tried to record TikToks there. And an elderly man at the diner muttered that the path keeps what walks it. Lena smiled politely, wrote it all down, and planned her fact-finding walk for Saturday night, October Huth, the night the locals said the veil between the living and the listening gets thin. That evening, the town was soaked in fog. Streetlights flickered pale yellow halos through the mist. Lena set up her recorder and camera, talking into the mic as she reached the cemetery gate. "This is Lena Harrow," she said, voice steady. "S. 11:48 p.m. I'm on the Whispering Path. Locals claim this route is haunted, that voices echo back when you walk alone. We're about to test that." Her shoes crunched on gravel. The fog was so dense it muted the world. Even the crickets seemed to stop. She narrated every few steps, trying to sound professional, but her voice echoed oddly, not ahead, not behind, but around. At 12:01 a.m., her recording caught a faint sound. Laughter. Just one short, breathy giggle. She spun around, nothing but gravestones. "Probably wind," she whispered. When she resumed walking, she noticed her footsteps sounded doubled. Left, right, left, right. But the second rhythm lagged. Soft, delayed, like someone smaller following closely behind. Her flashlight flickered. The beam cut through fog, illuminating crooked headstones that seemed to lean toward her. Names worn away, dates centuries old. She turned off her recorder and took a deep breath. The air smelled strange, like damp roses and rust. "It's just a shortcut," she muttered to herself. Then she heard it her own voice. The words echoed back perfectly, but not in her tone. Higher, harsher, mocking. "It's just a shortcut." She froze. "Hello?" she called out. Her breath fogged the air. "Who's there?" No answer. Just her voice again, closer this time. "It's just a shortcut." Her heart hammered. She raised her flashlight and pointed it toward the end of the path. The gate was gone. There should have been another exit near the churchyard, but now it was only fog and endless graves. Her phone buzzed suddenly in her pocket, startling her. She pulled it out, one new message from an unknown number. The text read, "Turn around, Lena." Her blood went cold. Slowly, she turned. Someone stood by the cemetery gate, or where it should have been. A woman, faintly visible through the fog. She wore what looked like a light coat, her hair tied up in a messy bun. At first, Lena thought it was another student, maybe someone following her prank. But the woman's face, it was hers. Every detail mirrored the same hair, same scarf, same trembling hands. Only this version wasn't holding a camera. It was smiling. The duplicate raised a finger to her lips and whispered, "Shh." Then all the lights went out, the flashlight, the phone. The sky itself seemed to collapse into blackness. The recording continued for 9 more minutes. It captured Lena's breathing, frantic footsteps, and finally her voice whispering, as if in 2 places at once. "It's just a shortcut. It's just a shortcut. It's just—" Then nothing. When the police arrived the next morning, her car was still parked at the diner. The locals helped search, but they found no sign of her. Only her recorder still running, lying neatly by the cemetery gate. And on the audio, just before it cuts off, there's one more voice. A soft, familiar laugh. The same one the florist swore she had heard every night since 2016. 2 days after Lena Harrow's disappearance, Coldhaven changed. It wasn't immediate, the town didn't panic. They'd seen missing people before, but this was different. The air itself felt wrong, heavy like water pressing on glass. The fog didn't lift that week. It lingered even through daylight, swallowing color from everything it touched. The police closed off the cemetery and the Whispering Path, but locals said they still heard footsteps near it every night. A florist who lived across the street swore she heard laughter at exactly 2:14 a.m. Light and teasing, followed by Lena's voice saying, "It's just a shortcut." No one walked that way anymore, not even in daylight. But one man did, Ethan Clark, a freelance audio engineer who'd helped the college archive student projects. He'd been the last to text Lena before she vanished. He wasn't a believer either. But after police released her recovered audio to the university for analysis, he was assigned to enhance it. The file began with her calm narration. Then came the laughter, faint, almost playful, Ethan Elio. He leaned closer to his headphones, isolating frequencies. There were 2 voices under Lena's, layered like overlapping echoes. Both were female. Both perfectly matched her own tone and pitch. Only one was reversed. He rewound it again and slowed it down, isolating the second voice. When played backward, it whispered, "Turn around, Lena." Ethan froze. His stomach tightened. The hairs on his arms stood up. He closed the laptop and sat back, heart pounding. He'd heard plenty of weird recordings in his career, static, phantom sounds, misaligned channels, but this wasn't a glitch. It was deliberate. He emailed the police audio technician asking if they'd noticed. They hadn't. The file they received didn't contain that layer at all. The reversed voice appeared only in his copy. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying it in his mind. Turn around, Lena. The next morning, he packed his recorder and drove to Coldhaven. When he reached the cemetery gate, the police tape was still fluttering in the wind. The fog rolled over the hills like gray smoke, thick and unmoving. The iron gate creaked as he stepped inside. He hit record on his handheld device. October 11th, he said softly. Testing environmental acoustics around Whispering Path. Locals report auditory phenomena between midnight and 3 a.m. He walked deeper into the path. Leaves crunched underfoot, though the ground was wet. He marked his distance with reflective tape every 50 feet. He wanted data, not superstition. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Just the sound of his own breathing and wind. Then, around 2:10 a.m., his audio meters spiked. A soft hum filled the air. Low, rhythmic, like wind through a bottle. It wasn't constant, it pulsed, syncopated, as if answering something. He raised his microphone toward the fog. "Hello?" he whispered. Something whispered back. Not words, just sound like his when voice rebounding from the dark, delayed by half a breath. He took another step forward. The hum grew louder, and with it came a faint laugh, the same from Lena's file. His recorder blinked red, detecting sudden temperature drop. "Is someone there?" he said, voice trembling now. Then, through his headphones, her voice. Clear, crisp. "It's just a shortcut." He whipped around, flashlight sweeping the fog. Nothing, just endless rows of gravestones glistening like teeth. He took a shaky breath and forced himself forward another few steps. "Lena?" A pause. Then her voice again, only this time it wasn't recorded. It came from directly behind him. "It's just a shortcut." He turned so fast he dropped his flashlight. The beam spun wildly, catching something pale in the fog. A shape, a face, watching him from behind a tomb. He ran. He didn't know where, only that he had to get out. The fog swallowed his direction. Every turn looked the same. When he burst through the gate minutes later, he fell to the ground, gasping. The recorder was still in his hand, the red light blinking. He hit playback. It began normally, his breathing, his questions, the laughter, then something new. Another voice layered beneath Lena's, whispering like static turned human. "He's next." Ethan stared at the screen. The audio timer was still running, though he wasn't recording anymore. The device was playing itself. He dropped it and stumbled backward toward his car. When he looked up, his reflection stared back at him from the windshield. Only the reflection smiled. He drove away without looking back. By morning, the fog had thickened again. The florist who opened her shop at 7 a.m. noticed something odd in the mist. A man's silhouette near the cemetery fence, pacing slowly back and forth. She assumed it was a groundskeeper until he turned toward her window. His face was pale, eyes black with shadow. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. That night, at exactly 2:14 a.m., the entire town heard it. Footsteps, 2 sets, echoing in sync, circling the cemetery. Then, softly, a man's voice this time. "It's just a shortcut." The next morning, Ethan Clark's car was found parked near the gate, door open, recorder on the seat. The last line it captured before cutting off was whispered by 2 voices, one male, one female, perfectly in sync. "Turn around." By the end of October, Coldhaven wasn't the same town anymore. What began as a single disappearance had spread like a sickness. People whispered that the fog had stopped moving, that it clung to the cemetery like breath on glass, because something inside it was breathing back. Every night, exactly at 2:14 a.m., the footsteps began. Always 2 sets, always circling the whispering path. The town clock tower had stopped chiming that week, as if even time refused to echo that hour. The florist who first heard Lena's laugh stopped opening her shop after dusk. A delivery driver swore he saw faces in his side mirrors just behind him while passing the cemetery road. And when the local pastor tried to bless the grounds, the recording from his sermon came back distorted. In the background, under his words, someone whispered along, mimicking every sentence half a second late. The sheriff called in outside investigators. The first night they arrived, they left microphones along the path, 16 in total, calibrated to capture infrasound. The next morning, when they reviewed the data, each microphone picked up one name, the same name, repeated slowly, rhythmically, Lena Harrow. But what terrified them most wasn't the voice, it was the timeline. Each mic recorded the same phrase at a different hour, as if the voice had been walking in a loop through the night, circling the path over and over until dawn. The police ordered the cemetery sealed, but no one dared remove the equipment. The fog rolled thicker each day, and the tape fluttered uselessly at the gates. 3 nights later, a group of college students arrived, Lena's classmates from the university, desperate for answers. They brought flashlights, cameras, and Ethan's recovered recorder. They planned to stay till morning, hoping to document whatever haunted Coldhaven. By midnight, the fog was so heavy it glowed under their flashlights like snow. They followed the narrow dirt path until it forked near an old angel statue the one locals called the Listener. Its stone wings were cracked, but its head tilted as if eavesdropping. One of the students, Mara, set the recorder down at its base. "Lena," she called softly, "if you can hear us, give us a sign. Only silence." Then, faintly, wind brushing through dead grass. They waited. 10 minutes passed, nothing. Then, at exactly 2:14 a.m., the recorder blinked red. Playback began on its own. At first it was just static. Then Lena's voice came through, faint but unmistakable. "It's just a shortcut." The students froze. One whispered, "That's her." But the voice repeated again, lower this time, slower as if the earth itself was speaking. "It's just a shortcut." Then came laughter. Not recorded laughter, real. It surrounded them, circling through the fog like children running through leaves. Their flashlights flickered as the ground seemed to vibrate beneath their feet. One of them screamed as a second voice joined in a man's voice. Ethan's. "Turn around." Mara turned her light toward the angel statue and gasped. It wasn't facing them anymore. Its head had turned slightly, its ear now tilted toward the recorder. The air grew colder. The laughter stopped. Then, from somewhere deep in the fog, footsteps 1, 2, matching their heartbeats. Each one louder, closer, as if invisible feet pressed the soil beside them. Mara grabbed the recorder and ran. The others followed, flashlights darting wildly. But no matter how far they ran, the fence never appeared. The path twisted in impossible circles, each curve leading back to the same spot. Finally, gasping and crying, she looked down at the recorder in her shaking hands. It was still playing, but the timer wasn't moving.